PardallMarkdown is a reactive publishing framework file system based with Markdown support. But what does reactive mean? It means that as soon as you modify or add new content, PardallMarkdown automatically reparses those events and it generates a new content. As you can see, if I save here, it's automatically reflected here. PardallMarkdown watches for a folder for file events, and then as soon as it receives file events, it reparses all the content and republishes them. PardallMarkdown also has support for nested content hierarchies, custom post metadata, and custom sorting rules. It also creates content trees, taxonomy trees, and table of contents from Markdown headers. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a Phoenix LiveView website with PardallMarkdown that reacts and adapts to content changes. The final product you're going to create is this website I'm showing you here, which has a blog and a documentation section. So let's get started. In order to follow this tutorial, you have to get the starter content that I created in a special repository. So go to this repository, the link is in the video description, and go to the branch Tutorial Starter. This starter branch has a basic bootstrap template and also the initial Phoenix LiveView structure. So clone this starter project and branch. This starter project includes bootstrap and some basic styles, so we don't lose time trying to fight with HTML and CSS. Let's go straight to the point. Open the sample project, go to the mix file, and let's import PardallMarkdown. At the time of this tutorial recording, the current version is 0.1.2. Save and call mix.deps.get. Also add PardallMarkdown to the extra applications. Let's start this Phoenix application. So ex -s mix phoenix.server. Go to localhost port 4000 and that's it. This is the skeleton project. If you click here, nothing's there. The first thing we have to understand is PardallMarkdown configuration. So the most important configuration key in your config file is called the root path. Root path is where your website or application content is going to reside. Right now, it points to the sample content folder inside this application folder. But in a real application scenario, you likely want to have this folder outside the application. This way, you can always publish new content without rebuilding the application, without republishing the application. This is the magic of PardallMarkdown. Right now, let's keep this folder inside the application, and afterward, let's try to place this folder outside the application. So right now, let's keep it here. But just keep in mind that you can place an absolute path here, which is probably the case for final applications. Static assets folder name is the name of the folder inside the main root path that contains static assets. This folder is not going to be indexed by PardallMarkdown, but this is where you're going to place static folders. You're going to place images, for example, that you refer inside your Markdown files. We're also going to see this. The site name, so this is going to be added to the page titles and anywhere else you want to use it. This is like the interval on how often PardallMarkdown is going to rebuild new file events received by the application. In a production environment, you probably want this, for example, at 10 seconds or 30 seconds. But for the purposes of this tutorial, so we can see the content being rebuilt almost immediately, let's put a very low value, such as 200 milliseconds. This other feature called Notify Content Reloaded which probably is going to be used only by Phoenix applications that use Pardall Markdown. Because notice that Pardall Markdown can be used with any Elixir application, not only Phoenix applications. But of course, the best use case scenario is with Phoenix applications. And when Pardall Markdown rebuilds the content, you can place a hook so that it calls a Phoenix endpoint broadcast, and then this broadcast sends the content to your website. In this case, I created a sample function here, which simple calls this sample application endpoint to a channel called Pardall Markdown Web and the event called content reloaded. We're gonna see this in action in a moment. So this is the configuration. So just remember to set the root path content, the root path folder. Open the terminal where you started the Phoenix application. Go to the sample content folder and create a new file there. Let's call it hello world.md for Markdown. As you can see, Pardall Markdown immediately reloaded the content because we set a check interval of only 200 milliseconds. You can see here, pending file events will reload content reloaded. But then we got an error saying we could not find the separator 3 dashes. It's because all Markdown files must contain an Elixir map, 3 dashes and a space. This map contains metadata information about your file. So let's hit save. As you can see, the content has been correctly parsed. It's going to reside inside a nets table. There it is. It's indexed by the URL slug, and the content is already parsed here. Let's place some content here. Hello world, hello header, hello image. Since the content folder already has some images, let's place one here. Naturally, there is nothing here because our Phoenix application still knows nothing about Pardall Markdown its content. So let's open the index Phoenix LiveView and call PardallMarkdown.repository.get by slug hello world. Let's assign this to our socket. Call it content. The module repository is how you get Pardall Markdown parsed content. And get by slug returns a single post or a single piece of content. In this case, since we are calling the slug of a single post, we're gonna receive a Pardall Markdown post schema. So in our template, let's show that raw content.content, because remember we are going to receive a post schema and it has a field called content, and the content field is everything that's inside here and it's HTML text. That's why we have to also provide the raw function to our Phoenix LiveView template. Let's see our page, and here it is. It immediately appeared here. Let's see the instant reload in action. Let's place 3 exclamation points here and hit save. And it didn't reload. Why? Because we still aren't subscribed to the endpoint broadcast. But as you can see, the content has reloaded, actually has reloaded in Pardall Markdown. If we hit F5, you can see it's here. So let's subscribe to our Pardall Markdown web topic to receive content updates. But is it always called this topic? No, remember that in your configuration, the hook is set to our custom function, and our custom function sets the topic as Pardall Markdown web. But you can set this as anything. Keep in mind the event called content reloaded because we are going to use this now. We also have to receive the event. Let's create the function called load content. Let's call the function load content also in our mount function, so we can reuse the same procedure when the content is broadcasted, when we start our live view. Yes, it seems like it. We have an error here. It's because we are returning OK. So it's basically like this. And that's it. So let's now go back to our application. Now we can finally save, and it's automatically reflected in our Phoenix LiveView application. Let's add a new piece of content. And to that, let's first see what's a content tree. Let's create a new variable and call PardallMarkdown repository, get content tree, and then also assign that to the sockets. So let's just call it tree and tree. Now that we generated our tree, our content tree, we have to show it somewhere. Let's add a new header in the index page. Let's call raw again. The tree is a list of PardallMarkdown links. In this case, we have to iterate those links and show the tree in its nested hierarchy. Inside PardallMarkdown helpers, I already wrote a helper called Taxonomy tree list, which prints PardallMarkdown trees. In this case, simply calls it and then provides the tree attribute we just assigned it to the socket. Let's go to website, refresh, and the post hello world is still not showing here. Why? It's because by default, posts are considered draft. It only appears, those posts are returned by the trees and archives only if you set publish it true. Otherwise, a post is always a draft. Draft posts are returned by get by slug, but they are not part of the content trees or navigation trees. So as I just set it to publish a tree, as you can open here, the content has been reloaded. Let's go here, and the hello world post is there. But we still can't open posts. It still says not found. And now we only have a post in the root hierarchy. Let's first try to add a post inside a folder. So inside our content folder, let's create a new folder called blog. And let's write a new post called hello blog.md. As always, we need a metadata map. Let's set publish as true. And let's write here, this is our post. Level 1 header, hello 1, level 2, hello 2, level 3, hello 3. And again, let's put an image here. In level 2, let's change it, let's choose another image. So, Benho bedroom.jpg and hit save. As you can see, immediately the hierarchy appeared here in the tree and the post appeared here. You can see also, if you see in the URL, copy link address, let's see, it also goes to the current hierarchy, /blog/hello blog. And as you can see, the title of the post is the name of the Markdown file, but you can change that. So it's time for you to know a new parameter called title. And hello, my new Markdown blog. Let's save it, and you can see the title is reflected here. But we still can't open the document. Let's go back to our demo project. Let's create a new Phoenix LiveView view, simply called content. In the parameters, we are going to expect an URL slug. Let's place the slug here. Let's go back to our content, to our index view, and see how do we get a single slug by calling get by slug. So let's use the same function there and provide our slug content. And now let's also create a helper function just like this one, called load content. And instead of calling get by slug hello world, let's actually delete this, and let's assign our slug to the socket when the view is mounted. So assign slug. Now we can reuse this slug here. Notice that I'm not going to explain you how Phoenix LiveView works. We are just going straight to the point related to PardallMarkdown. So if you want to learn more about Phoenix LiveView, check the documentation or the excellent videos made by Chris McCord. And get by slug. Let's still get the tree like that. Okay, let's hit save and go to the content template. We call that content too. Let's call here raw content.content. Let's see if that works. No, it's not gonna work. Let's first go to router and let's write that route. So this is going to be a catch-all slug route. Basically, live.content because it's our new components. Let's leave it as it is right now. Okay, so blog, let's click here. Content's not available. Let's see why. It's simple because we are never assigning it. So load content. Now it's correctly being assigned when the socket is mounted, the component is mounted. And there is still another error here. Page not found, blog hello world. That's so because Phoenix gives us the parameter, so from catch all URLs in a list. So let's implode that list into a usable string. So it's a simple function that joins or implodes the list into a string separated by slashes, because this is how PardallMarkdown indexes the content. So for the blog post that we created that's inside the blog folder, PardallMarkdown indexes that as hello blog, since this is the name of the folder of the file. So this is how you access this content directly. You have to provide the full slug that also refers to the post hierarchy or the folders that it's contained inside. So get by slug and slug parameters to slug. Now let's go to our website. Here it is. This is our post. But as you can see, we have a problem with the image. It's not showing up here. The image is not showing there because we have to make sure it points to the root static images folder. You can also put a relative path, and then PardallMarkdown is going to correctly reflect it there. But it's not going to show immediately in our website because we also have to subscribe to the content changes topic. So let's also subscribe here in the content view. Let's also list them for the content reload event. And since we also have a helper function here, it should work immediately. Yes, and there it is, it reloaded for us. Let's try changing to another image. We have also the self-portrait.jpg. Yes, there it is. We can also remove the image. There it is. What about the table of contents? Don't we have a table of contents? Yes, it's still not in this template. So the table of contents should contain 3 links. This one, and this one. So basically 3 levels. A table of contents is placed inside a PardallMarkdown post.toc property. It's a list of links. I also prepared a helper that prints table of contents. It's called post.toc list. Let's go to our template, raw toc link content.toc. Hit save. Where is it? And there it is. This is a table of content. If I click level 1, it goes to level 1. If I click level 2, it goes to level 2. level 3, and there it is. Let's correctly format this post, including showing the post title and everything else. So we're not gonna lose time creating an HTML template. So I'm just going to post what I created before. The difference here is that I show the title, I format the post date, I also show an alert if this post is still a draft, I show the content, and the table of contents correctly formatted. Let's save. There it is. This is our post. This is the title. I also call the taxonomy tree list for the post taxonomies. So you can show, it's just like you have older blog systems or older and other static website generators. You can also show where this post belongs to. In this case, it's simple inside the blog folder. So it shows here. You can call the helper I created, and you can call the taxonomies, which is also a list of links, and it's correctly formatted here. As you can see, if you click right now directly at taxonomy and not a single post, we are getting an error. We are still not treating a taxonomy archive. When you click at taxonomy slug, it's called an archive. An archive of posts that are inside this taxonomy. Even inside another subfolder, the parent taxonomy has posts inside the subfolder, and subfolder has its own posts. Let's see that in practice. So let's go back to our content here. Inside our blog folder, let's create a new folder called art, for example. Let's create a new post called "This is an inner post .markdown." Let's copy and paste this. You can also set a custom date for the post. It's in the format ISO. So this is the date that's going to be considered. You can also set a time. Let's write here the inner post and hit save. If we go back to the root, the post, you can see the subfolder correctly appears inside blog, and the post correctly appears inside its subfolder. So you can see the post hierarchy is also showing up here: blog, art, and then the post. This hierarchy is inside this taxonomies property of a single post. So all taxonomies or the post hierarchy are contained inside this taxonomies property of the post. Also, you can see the post date appears here. This is the custom date, 1 of September, because right now today is September 17. So I also set a custom date for this post. If you go back to the other post, the hello blog, you can see the date is set correctly to today because I didn't set a custom date. So now let's deal with showing a taxonomy archive. Let's go back to the content view, and there is nothing we have to change here because get by slug also works correctly with taxonomies, because taxonomies are simple. Another URL, another slug. So this refers to the folder, this refers to another folder, and this refers, for example, directly to a post, but this to a folder. And get by slug returns either a single post or a list of posts, which is the taxonomy that this slug refers to. But how can we show those posts in our template? When you call get by slug and this slug refers to a taxonomy, you are going to receive a link actually. And the link contains the taxonomy title, the children, which are the posts that are nested inside this taxonomy, and all these other fields that you can use. So instead of calling content.content, we have to iterate through the content children when we are dealing with the taxonomy. But instead of calling the same template, let's create a new template only for the taxonomies and a template for single posts. As I said before, let's not lose time with HTML, so we already have that in the starter project. So you can see here single taxonomy. it iterates through the posts, so content.children, and then it creates a card for the post. A card is simple, a custom Phoenix LiveView component that I created, but there's nothing special about it. It also contains the post title, the post summary. The post summary can be a custom property that you write here. So this post is about showcasing a blog post. So this is optional, you don't have to write a summary. That component also contains a link to the full post. So this is the template for a taxonomy, and this is the template for a single post. Let's modify our content LiveView view to call any of those two templates depending on the content type. So Phoenix LiveView view already provides a function called render, which you can give a custom template. In this case, if our content is a post, we are going to show the single post template. Simple call, so Phoenix view.render, and then the single post template. Let's hit save. And if your content is a link, it refers to a taxonomy. So let's call the single taxonomy template. Alias PardallMarkdown.content.post and .link. Let's first remove this age 6 line here. Let's also remove this section, which is, for now let's not show a sidebar. As you can see, it correctly shows the posts inside the art folder. If you go to blog, it should show all posts inside the blog folder, including the subfolders. And this is what happened here. It's, as you can see, blog and blog art. So this is inside blog and this is inside blog art. So posts and inner posts. So as I said, PardallMarkdown supports infinite nested hierarchies, and then each level of the hierarchy is responsible for the posts below it. That's it. And also you can see the custom summary property is showing here. This one doesn't have a summary, and so it doesn't show. PardallMarkdown also generates next and previous links to a post. So for example, if you have a blog, today you post something. The next day you post something else. So you have to know what is the previous post, what is the next post. Those links are inside the post link property, and then there is a link .previous property and a link .next property. And the post itself that this link refers to is inside the children property. Let's take a look at the link, the post model, just to understand that. So if you have the post model here, you have the link, right? So if you go to link, you have a previous, which is the link that's before this link, and the next, which is the link that goes after this one. And then inside the children, you're gonna have the post that is related to those links. So if you go, the next itself is a link, and then the children is the post that's is related to that link. That's why if you open this here, you're gonna have a next and previous post. This is the post that's before this current post in the complete hierarchy. So this is inside, this is the next post, this is the previous post. And how are posts sorted inside the navigation links? They are sorted by the hierarchy sorting rules. By default, posts are sorted by date. So as you can see, this is the first one because the date, this is the most updated one, and this is the second one. Let's now understand custom sorting rules. If you go to the blog folder here in the sample content folder, create a new file called _index.md. This is a reserved name for PardallMarkdown that contains this taxonomy specific configurations. For example, this is called blog, right? But you can override the title, for example, of the taxonomy. So this is the first possible configuration. Let's go back to PardallMarkdown. As you can see, it has been changed to my blog. This is another thing that reflected immediately. Even if you have a blog or a website in production and save to this external content folder, it's gonna reflect it immediately. Another custom configuration is called sort by, and here you can choose title, date, slug, or position. The sorting rules of the inner posts of this taxonomy. Let's still keep as date, but instead let's choose sorter order as ascending. As you can see, the oldest post appears first. Let's go back to this descending, and it already reloaded. This is insane, right? It still blows my mind how instant this is. So let's order by title ascending. Hit save. So this is by title ascending. There's also the special one called position. But then this is nothing gonna happen because you have to set the position in each post. So go to the first post, set position as 1, for example, or 0, for example. This should be the first one. Open that one. Let's set position to 1. And now if you go to blog, hello my Markdown blog appears first because the position is 0 and the other post is 1. I can also change it to descending, and now the ordering has been inverted. You can also put anything inside the index post of a taxonomy. For example, hello, welcome to my blog. You can also put any metadata here. For example, blog type normal. Nothing gonna happen here, or isn't it? There it is. The custom content has appeared here. It's not automatic, of course, because the custom template that we wrote already anticipated there. If you go to single taxonomy, you can see I am calling content index post.content. Let's go back to link. There it is. Inside the link, there is this special property called index post, which is a simple post. And this post, in this case, is the index file that you place it inside the blog taxonomy. So in this case, index post is a post as every other. You can use all properties from a post. Likewise, remember that we placed a custom property inside the index folder in the index post called blog type. How do we access that? Additional properties are saved inside the metadata property of a post. So we can just call metadata and the property name. Let's try that. There's not much usage for that property right now, but let's just showcase that. Content.indexpost.metadata.blogtype. Let's try it. And there it is, blog type normal. Let's delete that. Yes, it's back to normal. How can we place a sidebar inside taxonomy archives? You simply get the taxonomy, the content tree for the taxonomy slug. So this is another feature that we are learning now. Instead of getting a root content tree, we can get a content tree specific to the taxonomy we are navigating. But if we simply put slug here, it's going to end up also getting the content tree only for a single post or only for inner taxonomies. For example, if we are getting the art taxonomy, I want to always get a sidebar for the topmost taxonomy. In this case, let's create a new function here called assign content tree, right? And if we have a post, a single post, we are going to get the first taxonomy of that post. So we have here the taxonomies list, and we are going to get the first taxonomy of the tree. which is the root, the topmost taxonomy. So if a post is inside blog, art, Van Gogh, and post, so the topmost taxonomy or category is called blog, and it's here, right? And a taxonomy is simple, a link. So we need the slug of that link to get the content tree for that specific taxonomy, because you call content, you always provide a slug to the content tree. So remember this, the content tree can be retrieved both by the root one without any slug here, or nested down content trees that strips the content that goes before it. For example, if we get the taxonomy tree for blog art Van Gogh, we are going to get the content that's all below this tree. We are not going to get the content that comes before this level of nesting. So this is what we are doing here, but instead for the root one, which is blog, and then everything that comes before after it. And then we are also going to assign this topmost taxonomy to another property called another assign called top taxonomy. Let's do the same for link, because links are archives in this case, right? Because when we access this page with a link, we are getting access to directly access to the taxonomy. In this case, we simply are going to get the slug for the link. And there it is, slug link. But if we do this, we are going to show a sidebar only for the innermost taxonomy. As I said again, let's copy and paste this one, right? And then let me showcase you another property of link, which is called parents. Parents shows all the parents slugs of this current link. In this case, all links always have the root slug as the parent, and the hierarchy goes from top to down, blog, art, so on and so forth. In this case, you always want the second one, not the first one. So we get the second item of the list of parents. Then we have to retrieve this taxonomy link. We can again call PardallMarkdown get by slug. Let's place an alias here, PardallMarkdown.repository, so we don't have to always give the full name. And place the topmost taxonomy there. Let's see how our page reflects. It's still not working because we're not calling this function. So in load the content, let's also call assign content tree. Let's remove this one, let's remove this tree, let's assign, provide this content, and now it should work. Yes, there it is. If you go to a taxonomy archive, you are going to see a collapsible list of the whole hierarchy. Even right now, as you can see, we are inside art, but we still show everything that's related to the blog from bottom to top, or if you prefer, from top to bottom. Now if I go to blog, it's the same. Let's build a secondary folder, a second folder called documentation. So we have both a documentation and a blog in your website, which is typical, for example, for software projects. So let's call this documentation. Let's create a new folder called getting started and create a post called introduction.md. Title getting started. Now let's not put a title, let's put it by default. This is the doc's intro. So if you go back to the index, as you can see, the new folder is already reflected here. Go outside your content folder, for example, go to another folder here. Let's create a folder called advanced topics. Inside this folder, create many different files and subfolders. Just an example. So another one. And I'll just copy the Markdown file, any Markdown file we created before, and I'll paste inside this. Let's rename this another one. Let's paste another one here, some other file, and let's go back one level. Let's place another file here. So you have this external folder with many new files and many subfolders. Copy this new folder and paste inside the documentation folder we created previously. That's inside the content folder of our application. So count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Paste. Look what happened. The hierarchy has been generated for the folders, no matter how nested they are. And the posts are here. They are not showing up in the tree because they are still marked as graphics. But if you go here, they are just here. Now let's do something else. Let's delete this folder. As you can see, everything is gone immediately. Let's Ctrl Z. Everything's back here. Let's rename this. So advanced topics, new. Everything's updated, even the nested hierarchies. So this is insane, right? So we have a blog and documentation. For a blog, we showcase the blog in full screen and documentation as well. But normally in documentation websites, you have a sidebar inside the post. I already made a template for that. So if you go here in templates, single post with sidebar. There is nothing else, there is not much else to learn here because we already do that in the taxonomy archive. You simply call the helper collapse the taxonomy tree list that I created and provide a tree related to that post parent taxonomy. But how can we show the sidebar template instead of the single post template? We can treat that based on the parent taxonomy of a post. It's a simple matter of detecting the topmost taxonomy slug. In this case, top taxonomy that we assign here. In this case, we just want to show a post with a sidebar for posts inside the documentation. Let's save, and there it is. So getting started, introduction. But how to show the posts in the sidebar? Well, we learned that already. We have to set them as not drafted. So publish it true, save. Let's also set that inside the other posts. And yeah, everything is already here. Introduction, some other file, another one. Everything is here and perfectly generated. What else can we make? What about showing a sitemap just like this in an individual page? And what about showing all the categories in an individual page? Well, you already know the functions to do that. With the content tree and taxonomy tree, let's add 2 new routes before the catch-all route called sitemap. Let's create a new live action called sitemap and another one called categories and live action categories. But actually, instead of using the content view, let's use the index view, which makes sense, right? And then go to the index view here. We already assigned the sitemap. So let's just create also a taxonomy tree, which is basically, let's create categories, PardallMarkdown, repository, get taxonomy tree. So this gets all the categories in the correct hierarchy. Assign categories. Let's go back to our index template. Let's paste the template I create that's in the repository. So if the live action is called taxonomy tree, oops, I named that wrong before. Let's open the router. Instead of the live action being categories, write taxonomy tree and content tree for the sitemap. Now let's go back to our index template. Yes, everything is correct now. Also, let's go back to our index view and name that accordingly. So this is a content tree and this is a taxonomy tree. That's the inverse. So content tree, and the categories are taxonomy tree. Let's also remove the content from here and save. Let's go back to our templates. Yes. As you can see, it's complaining that it doesn't have a posts variable. So what about showing the most up-to-date posts? Every time we update the content, they show up in the index page. Well, you know how to do that as well. It's another function from the repository called getAllPosts, or a helper function called getAllPublished that already filters out draft posts. Let's do that. And let's force a sorting rule by date. So we have another Pardall Markdown helper called sort by published date. It's a single method of adding in here, assign posts, right? And get all posts, published, sort by published date. Let's hit save. And there it is. This is the index page. Posts are sorted by updated date. Let's just have an example here. 1, 2, 3. Let's change the title. This should appear at the top. Save. There it is. There it is. What about our sitemap? It's not working because I set the footer to be content tree. So let's go back to our project. Router. So instead of sitemap is content tree. Instead of categories, it's taxonomy tree. I did those mistakes on purpose just so you get used to the terms. So taxonomy tree is normally called categories. Content tree can be called a sitemap or a sidebar, right? So let's go back here, hit refresh, and there it is. This is our sitemap, and if you click down here, categories, this is taxonomy tree. To finish this tutorial, let's see how our website reacts when the content folder is not inside the application, but instead it's outside. So I'll go to my documents folder, okay? Let me delete those two folders here. I'll go to the application content folder, and I'll do the following. I'm going to cut this folder, go to my documents folder and paste it. Our website should break now. Go and try to rebuild it. It's going to break. So let's do something. Yes, you can see the content doesn't exist. So let's go back to the configuration, and I'm going to set the absolute path to my documents folder and hit save. Now I'm going to compile it, and the content is here outside of the application. Okay, nothing new here. The difference is that with this you can publish your Pardall Markdown application to a production server, for example. You can have your content folder outside the application, and then you can publish and modify files, create new files all the time outside in this folder, and the website is there. The application website is there unchanged. Only the content is being rebuilt as you change it, the folder. So this is the most magical part about Pardall Markdown, and this is the biggest difference between Pardall Markdown and other static website builders. Because static website builders such as Hugo and Docsaurus makes you rebuild the whole content and publish everything every time you change a piece of content. With Pardall Markdown, you can keep your application running there forever, and you just change the content folder. So you can, for example, have your content folder as its own Git repository, and then every time you change something, you commit to the folder, to this repository, and the Pardall applications react to that. You can, for example, install sync things in your computer, okay? Configure sync thing to watch a folder in your computer, and make sync thing mirrors this folder to your server, to the external folder in your server. So what does that mean? That means that you can have your website and write content in your computer, Markdown content in your computer in a text editor, hit save, and immediately your website has this content published. So for me, that's mind-blowing. So if you like it, you can like this video, you can start the repository, and you can also support me on Patreon. You can follow me on Twitter. You can also subscribe to the channel and everything else. So yeah. This is it for this tutorial. If you want to understand more, just go to the PardallMarkdown repository. There is a big readme with information. You can also go to the documentation in Hex. And if you go to the tutorial master branch, it contains all this full code and contain a sample content by itself, so you don't have to write those content. The sample content has showcase hierarchies, showcase inner links to other content, and yeah, so you don't have to type all of this data showcase. So if you missed something from this tutorial, just go to the master branch of the demo and everything is there.